Looks like we won't be riding the Hawk today, but we have something to keep us busy until this weather clears up a little bit. This is actually a small toaster oven that we used for a few years. And the kids love making toast and bagels and all kinds of, warming up pancakes and all kinds of stuff. Toast crumbs, all kinds of pizza crumbs, grease, residue. We got all the loose debris. Used some dish soap to wipe away the grease and grime. Use a Scotch pad to scrub up the door. Clean the outside. So it's ready to go. I didn't plug it in. I gave it a little while to make sure everything was dry. I don't want any shorts. So this is probably the most important part of the powder coating system. Even with the oven, you can powder coat without the electrical effect. This is going to be the rack that I use to connect the lead from the gun, the negative lead. And there we're showing no resistance. No resistance. I actually cleaned this off and then I sanded it down a little bit with some 500 grit. So we don't have any resistance going on there, so we should have a good connection. I have a couple pieces, a couple parts. Here's a bolt that I wrapped in aluminum foil to protect the threads. And I just cleaned this off with some alcohol. Here are a pair of like 50-year-old Hemos, or whatever you call them, snippers. And I just cleaned these off with some alcohol. Now it's recommended use acetone, degreaser acetone, to clean them. There's a lot of steps. One of the most important parts besides having electrode conductivity is having an item that's clean so that the paint adheres. You don't want to have any oils or anything on the item. In fact, it's recommended to sandblast each item before you powder coat them. I don't have a sandblaster yet, but it is on my list. First air compressor, then sandblaster. But before I get to that, I want to try this machine to see how well it works, just at a basic level. I do have some other parts that I plan on powder coating, but those I will be using acetone. And I may give them a light sand, but I'm going to take it one step at a time to see exactly what I need to get this paint to stick. So these have had the minimum amount of preparation. It's basically wiped down with alcohol, and that one not so thoroughly. We're gonna put these on a powder coating machine, connect the leads, and try to give them a paint. I'll be using the same old box that we had the toaster oven stored in as my painting chamber. I have a metal hook up top to hold the items, but for now I'm just going to be using the rack. I actually have one more part that I want to prepare. I was intending on using acetone to clean this part so I can do a comparison, but I can't find the acetone right now, so what I'm going to do is just wipe this down with a paper towel and use the alcohol to wipe it off. And there's a few steps, more steps besides the sandblasting. You actually are supposed to heat the item after you sandblast it to degas it, or basically remove all the residue from the pores of the metal. Maybe oil seeps down into the metal, and the heat helps carbonize it and release it. So you wipe it off again. So all the steps is to get a perfect finish, perfect adhesion to the item. This is just an experiment to see if you actually need to do all that. You know, I've told you guys before, I like to do everything the easy way. It makes more time to do other things. Not so much that I'm lazy. I just have a lot to do. All right, so that's pretty good with paper towel, I imagine. See if anything came off. Yeah, some of the major stuff. Let's wipe it down with some alcohol. So at least you guys will know, if you just have to start off with the basic investment of the powder coating machine, you can't afford an air compressor yet, or a major air compressor, or a sandblaster. At least you know that you can, how well things will go if you use just the basic steps, if it will work or not. That's what we want to find out today. As far as, you know, more advanced methods of preparation, I do intend to apply those. But like I said, the air compressor, you need a good one. So I'm gonna have to do some investing, one piece at a time. And as I add more pieces to my system, I will invest in more things to make the job easier. I doubt if I ever get to a commercial level. I like to just do some motorcycle parts for myself, my friends, maybe eventually get into some car rims and some other various parts. But I think this will make a nice little side gig. All right, so you can see there's things on the. You can see that there's contaminants still on the metal. When it's powder coated, you don't see any residue. When it's not powder coated, but when it's sandblasted, you don't see any residue. It's just clean metal. Fresh sanded, clean metal. Now, I've seen other people do this without sandblasting. Their results were not too bad, but it's more than just preparing the item. It's also actually how you apply the system when painting. So we're gonna try to apply all the techniques we've learned in a simple manner to get some decent results. All right, so nothing's coming off. That should be okay. We're gonna put that on a rack. We'll just leave it like that, and we're gonna commence. All right, y'all, so I have the oven set up, and we went ahead and plugged it in. And since we have to test out the oven, we're gonna go ahead and add one more step, which is going to be degassing. We're just gonna put it in there, 300 degrees or so for a few minutes to see how the oven works. And then we'll clean them off with some alcohol one more time before we spray them. So let's put it on. It has a bake and a broil, or a toast. We're gonna put it on toast. That's 450 degrees. That puts the top and the bottom on, if I'm correct. Let's go ahead and set it for like 7 to 8 minutes. See if they warm up in there. See if those lights get hot. I also have something to help us determine the temperature, their actual temperature. Also, I see they're starting to get red. Both of them are getting red. The bottom one you can't see so much in the lens of the camera. All right, that's gonna work. So I also bought a thermometer. This was 20 bucks at Harbor Freight. They had another one, the gun, that was $39 or $29. It was on sale. I hope this thing works. It's pretty expensive. It ranges 27 degrees to 482 degrees Fahrenheit, or 33 degrees Celsius to 250 degrees Celsius. 40-hour battery life. So this is by Pittsburgh, infrared thermometer. I have the thermometer hooked up. Let's test it. Fahrenheit. 300. Let's point it directly at the object. It says 400 or something in there. That's hot. We have to figure out how to get a more accurate reading. pull this out. I'm gonna give them a quick wipe down. First, let's check the temperature. $150. 148 degrees. Most of those. Just gonna wipe these down, a little bit more alcohol before we start to spray them. I actually did smell some industrial type oils coming off of here. My wife was like, "What's that smell?" So I think it did help. Start with salt. At least now we don't know what's gonna happen if we don't know now the difference between if we don't degrease it or we don't degas it. But still, we didn't do all the steps, so the results may be questionable. I can feel the heat coming through there. This was the dirtiest one before we got started. Or either those nips could have been dirtier. They were old. Who knows how much body oils were built up in those over time. Got those from the auction like 5 years ago. Got a box of stuff from the auction. That was in the box. So we're just gonna lay them all down there so they have good contact with the rack. I think these are gonna be the least affected by the powder coating. They look pretty clean. I think the heating definitely helped get them a little cleaner, loosen up those oils. All right, I'm sure the experts know what they're talking about. So we're gonna powder coat this outside in the garage so we can help eliminate some of the contaminants. Even though they say powder coating is relatively safe, I know this powder contains mica, and mica is definitely not safe. So I recommend having some ventilation. Definitely have to wear a mask and some goggles. I purchased an additional airflow regulator, and this allows me to see exactly how much pressure is coming out of the air gun. But I'm gonna go ahead and use it the way it's set up from our first try, and then later on we'll add this on. We'll just leave it there. Let's add a little paint to one of our containers, and then go ahead and test our setup, see what kind of spray pattern we're gonna get. Fresh bottle. I'm just gonna put a little bit in there, probably as much as we need. I'm not sure how much that'll be, but not very much. We're gonna leave them on the original diffuser and see how that goes. There's a package down in here with a larger and a smaller diffuser and an extra fuse and an O-ring. This is about a ½ inch in there. We'll be using this again, so let's put a sufficient amount. It's about a ½ inch. So I'm wearing a mask right now, some goggles. I don't have my blow gun attached, but whatever mask we have, we'll just blow it off. We're out here in the garage, it's already dirty. When it floods outside real bad, we get those flash floods. We get a little water in here along with all the mud. So I have to clean it out a couple times a year. Spray it down, the power washer to get all the dirt out of here. Make sure this lid's going evenly. It's a little hot. There we go. Nice and tight. I think we're good to go. So our air compressor says it has about 75 pounds of pressure built up in the tank. I'm not really an expert on how to use that air compressor. So I had it for about a year. I got it to use for my power washer. It works great for that. Really good. Let's add the air hose. We need to add our negative clip to get our negative ions flowing. It's important to keep the electrical charge going whenever you're applying the paint. Haven't seen anyone stress that very much. If you're not getting a good spray, I would recommend checking your resistance. I haven't seen anyone mention that either. So there's a control valve on here. Ooh, I loosened it up. I'm not gonna mess with that. I'm just gonna try to spray. Put power on. Don't hear anything. Wow, it's coming out. I gotta hit the foot switch. The pattern looks nice. Charging it up. Whoa, I think that means I was too close to the lead. Let's move over here. I see a lot of dust coming out. I had an issue with my tripod moving around on me. Whoa, too much. Let's see if I can turn that down. Close this a little bit. Not too much powder. I didn't even see it coming out hardly. Let me turn it up just a little bit. So this regulator works fine. Is it empty? Empty. All right, it's empty. A little bit more in there. I didn't think I put that much. Well, anyway, this is just a test. So let's take our items and see what kind of result we have. A dull looking finish on there. I didn't look at the bottom yet. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but I'll give you a closer look after I put it in the oven. There's one shelf. See, people be extra careful not to lose any powder. I see some areas where there's any light coverage, but I actually ran out of air. Only ran out of air pressure, and the powder looked like it was pretty much empty also. So we have it set for toast, which is 450 degrees. A little bit more than what we need. Has the temperature on there. Let's turn it down to, let's see, 300, 450, so that should be about 400 right there. Let's give it 10 minutes. 10, 15 minutes. Oh, I'm glad I cleaned off that window, and I can actually see what's going on in there. So we just started the oven. It has a dull, grayish, rusty looking appearance. At least it doesn't have that chromy look that it had originally. I see a couple spots on the wrench where I could have had better coverage, but like I said, we didn't have enough air pressure to continue, and the paint looked like it was pretty much gone also. I only put a small amount just to get started. So once this starts to look glossy, I'm going to turn the oven down to around 300 for another couple minutes, and then I'll turn it off. So we still have about 6-7 minutes left. I actually have a class on Zoom coming up here in about 20 minutes. And I'll be needing my camera phone. So we'll continue this a little bit later. We'll let the oven go ahead and shut off like it will normally and cool down. And I'll have my phone plugged in and charging because I only have like 10%. All right, y'all, I'm back. I just had a class, so I had to take a break from this. And you know, actually, I did a half-ass job. But looking at it right now, I would say that the results is consistent with my half-ass job. Let's take a closer look. Let's start with the bolt. So this, I covered the threads in aluminum foil. Let's check out the coverage. It looks like it's pretty evenly coated. I noticed the bottom is not coated as well underneath there. The sides are coated pretty evenly. There may be a couple of light spots, but it's pretty even all around. It has like a nice satin finish, but the coverage isn't 100%. I would say it's about 70 to 80% and very light. Can I get the foil off? And we can do a comparison in the colors. So that's the original, and that's the darkened. I say darkened, it's not black. It's getting black. If I would apply the powder a little bit longer, or did all the steps correctly, it may have better coverage. May have had better coverage. So the top is nicely covered and even on the wrench. And it's really, really nice looking considering I only use alcohol to clean it. I see a little bit of silver down here in the crack. That could be the Faraday effect. You guys will learn more about that as I continue doing this. That side didn't get covered very well. So hanging the items may give me better coverage. And with the coating of paint that's building up on here, I may have to resand it, or it may not keep its conductivity. Here are the hemos. This is the most complicated item. This is the bottom, and this is the top. The top looks really nice. Even, like dark, or even nice satin, dark gray, light black finish. It doesn't even look like anything's been applied. It just looks like that's the color of the metal. But then the other side, the coverage is much lighter, especially right here along the handle. Let's look at the clip. That's pretty well covered as well. There's a few light spots. Very promising. I see a little bit of contamination there. With sandblasting, we'll take care of stuff like that. Overall, I would say this, considering the half-assed job that I did, the results are pretty nice. There's a big piece of metal right there. I made several errors when getting this all set up. The preparation, of course you guys know I didn't put 100% into that. I just wanted to get a basic feel for the machine. But as far as applying, there was a few other steps that I could have done to make it better. For one, I kept the gun too close. Should have been about 18 inches away. Another thing, I didn't leave the temperature on the oven on long enough. So after it reaches that glowing stage, that smooth, glossy stage, it should be on for like another 10 minutes or so. And I actually didn't leave it on for an additional time, so we only had it on half the time. And we got about half the results. I think if I really apply all the techniques, then I should get much better results. So we're gonna do this again tomorrow. But just for initial test, I would say it did a decent job. This is probably out of all the videos I've seen, this is probably the least effective results anyone's had. But considering what I put into it, I'm satisfied. Actually, the job wasn't as messy as I thought. It came out without leaving too much stuff to clean up. And I'm pretty happy with that. So I'll see you guys again in the next one.